Hello class, today we're going to learn about face tracking in After Effects. Alright, so we got Boss up in here, and turn him into a Lego. Alright, so there's a few ways to face track. We're going to do one that's a little unorthodox, but it's kind of trending right now on social media. So let's go to File, Import File, and find the video track. I believe it's called Video 4. Alright, import that, and you'll see it's 25 frames per second, 20 seconds-ish. Let's drag that into the icon composition. And if we play through it, probably don't want to use the entire 20 seconds, so let's scroll to about like 5-ish. Maybe stop it around right when he shakes her hand, right about there. And let's grab the trim area, or the work area, trim it there. Let's go to composition, trim comp to work area. Now comp is about 5 seconds, so we may not even use the entire 5 seconds, but anyway. So let's go ahead and select this and duplicate it, Control D or Command D. And I'm going to grab the ellipse tool on the top layer, and I'm going to draw an ellipse around his face at the beginning of the comp or frame timeline. And I'm just going to keyframe the mask position, or mask path, sorry. I'm going to keyframe it every second so that it follows his face, and it doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, maybe about like a 60% accuracy. And I'm going to do every second, and I'm going to do every half second as well. So what I want to do is I just want to make sure that I'm cropping out all the movement outside of his face, because any other movement is going to interfere with the tracking. So it's the opposite really of tracking the whole scene or the whole camera. Alright, so let's say I'm done there. Now let's go in between each second and just make sure it's synced up. Looks good. Or good enough. And almost done. Alright, cool. So next thing we want to do is we want to give this layer here a little more contrast, so it helps with our tracking points. So I'm going to give it a curves real quick, effect, color correction, curves. And let me take the shadows lower, take the mid or highlights higher. We'll start like that. Alright, so you can see it increased contrast. Now let's go ahead and before we hit track camera, let's go ahead and pre-compose this layer now. So it has that layer pre-compose, move all attributes. Okay, let's double click the pre-composition, and you know what, let's change the curves a little bit. I'm going to take the highlights off, just put it normal. Just want to make it a little darker on the shadows, and maybe the mid-tone's neutral. Okay, let's go back, solo the layer, let's hit track camera in tracker, and let's check advanced and detailed analysis. And what that's going to do is just basically going to make a more advanced camera track for us by checking the detailed analysis in the advanced section. Okay, solving camera. And let's see. All right, cool. We got our tracking points. Targets are huge. Let's decrease the target size so they're not that large. That's good enough. So what I want to do is I want to find one of these targets that basically is in the same position as the front of his face, like maybe around there. Okay, let's right click, Actually, let me zoom in, do it again. Right there, somewhere in the middle, because his head rotates. So it's gonna start there, and then it's gonna say hello, and then swing around. So if I find one right there, maybe, and it doesn't have to be exact, but the more exact, the better. The less work we'll have to do later. So you can be picky if you want, but you can see I'm a little picky. All right, I'll try that one. Okay, right before he swings, I'll go create solid and camera, right click. You can see now we got this solid pasted to his face, and when he swings around, it also rotates. It's not in the same exact position because it's a little slanted, but it's okay. It's good enough to where we can use it in Cinema 4D. So from here, I'm gonna go ahead and say, let's go ahead and save this probably. And yeah, I'll save. And then after you finish saving it, let's also export it as a Cinema 4D file. So I'm going to save it first, then file export as Maxon Cinema 4D exporter. It's going to export only the 2D layers. Save it. And then after you save that Cinema 4D file, let's go to File and import it back in. Import file. Find wherever you saved it. And I'm just going to drag this to the timeline to the top. So we're going to see, we now have the grid, and you can see it's all linked up. I'm going to turn off my 3D tracker camera and turn off the face layer, so it's just the original one. I'm going to go right click, open, edit original. And we're going to use Cinema 4D Lite. So yeah, we only need the video layer now and our C4D layer. Okay, so in here, we're going to do some work. Let's close these prompt windows. So it imported, you can see we scroll through it, everything, all the movements there. Let's expand this. You can see we got the camera and the solid and that null layer. So let me just go ahead and scrub through. Let me change the 4 views. And on the side view, the right view, you can really see what exactly is going on here. You can see there's our camera, super camera, and the camera is the one that has all the keyframes, and our solid, which is right to the right there, that's not moving at all. Only the camera is. So basically, we got to do a little reverse engineering here. Our camera's moving to compensate to make it look like the solid's actually moving, but the solid's not moving at all, okay? So the thing is, if we want to create lights, we also have to put them in that same node. So I'm going to go ahead and create a background here. Go to New Default Material, and go to Color, Texture, Load Image, and I'm going to find the video, and then I'm going to go to Editor, I uncheck Reflectance, check Animate Preview. Okay, now I throw this on the background, and now I get my face back. And this is just temporary, of course, and I don't really need it. It's just to help me a little bit. All right, so I got that background. Now, let's worry about, see how there's a little bit of a lag at the beginning? If I click the camera, you can see every frame is keyframed. It doesn't start till about right there though, so I could fix this as much as I want. I can re-keyframe the camera, or I can just try to delete a few keyframes at the beginning. And I could also trim it in After Effects so I don't even use the first 10 frames. But let me just do a little bit. You don't have to work on this too much. So let me grab that keyframe, delete it. And actually, you know what? I'll go switch layouts to animate. Animate, first one. And here you'll see a traditional timeline. You can see all your keyframes there for any layer object that has keyframes. So I'll select those, delete that one, delete that one, delete that one. now you can see it doesn't start till right there, and that's working a little better. You can see there's a little part where it kind of starts moving first, but you know what? If we really want to fine tune it, maybe we fix that too. Or again, you could just trim that off in After Effects and not even use the first second. All right, so I'm gonna go back to my startup layout right now. Layout startup. This is the default, and I'm going to actually create something new. So file, new project, and I'm going to create a Lego head. So I'm going to hit tube in the objects. I'm going to show the lines. I'm going to increase rotation segment so it's a little smoother. Increase outer radius, or decrease that one, and decrease inner radius a little. And I'll check the fillet caps or fillets. Let me increase the height a little as well. Check fillet so it's a little smooth on the edges. Increase the segments and radius. And that looks good. So let me duplicate that. Let me select it, edit, copy, edit, paste. And now with this duplicate one, let me raise it, and let me just shrink the inner outer radius a little. And then I'll just move it down a little so the head's not that high. If you want to see a real Lego, just Google Lego head and get some references. Change the radius segments. And then I could also duplicate it again. You can also hold Control or hold Command and just click and drag the object, and then it'll duplicate it as well. So if you hold it, click and drag it, and there's another duplicate. So that's looking pretty good. That's the neck right there. Make the neck a little shorter. So that's cool enough for a Lego head. Let me create a new material. Double click that. And the color, I'm going to give it a yellowish color. I'm going to, in Reflectance, add a Beckman layer 50%. Reflection strength down to 70. Let me add also a bump map. Check bump. Texture, I'll load a noise. And just your basic noise there. And let me decrease global scale to 5%. Drag and drop it on these things. Preview. That's okay, I guess. We take the bump strength down to 5. That's a little better. So just subtleties there. Alright, and then so I also want to make a face. So let me make this one editable. Let me click the editable button, and I'm going to choose the face polygon mode. And on this one, I'm going to select the faces of these things, but I'm going to go to select loop selection. And this is going to select the whole row for me of the faces right there. So I'll click that, hold shift, click that one. You can see it selected everything around. And that one and that one. And with this one, let me create a new material. Let me just throw this new material on there. Drag and drop it. And with this one, let me go ahead and double click the material, and you can see that it created the tag, so it only puts it on the feet. Let me double click it, go to color, texture, load image, and let's load the PSD Lego boss I gave you. And I don't want that. Cool, I got that. Reflectance, leave that. In alpha, actually, well, we'll get to that. So you can see it's on there. Now let's select that tag. Let's leave it at UV mapping. Let's just change the offset of the U, and let's also change the length of the U, and let's uncheck tile first. Yes, that's what we got to do. And then so it doesn't wrap around the whole thing. Yeah, so now we can just change the length of the U and the length of the V, and also offset the length of the U and the V. Basically the position is the offset, and the length is the scale. And the U is basically the X, and the V is basically the Y. Yeah, so let's just, it doesn't have to be perfect, of course. And that's looking pretty good. Alright, so let's double click it. Let's go back in there, and I'm going to choose alpha. And I'm going to load the same image, the Lego boss. And you can see now we got the alpha channel. And that's good. We can either choose that way or invert pre-multiply. Actually, let's just leave it by the default, invert and image alpha. Alright, so that's good. Now let's group these objects, select them all, go to Object, Group Objects, and rename that. And then we're going to edit copy and go back into our other file, project, and edit paste. Paste. Okay. So from here, basically, I want to look at this. Everything is in the null here, right? This null on the camera, and you can see that the position for the X and Y is 640, 360. It should be 0, 0. So that's how After Effects and Cinema 4D are different. So I'm just going to change this real quick of this null with everything in it. I'm going to change it to 0, the X, and 0 on the Y. And that's going to move everything, so don't worry about it. But the head's not in there yet. So what I want to do is I want to take the track solid information, grab the XYZ of this, select that, I'll hold shift, right click, copy, and then go to the head and right click, paste the XYZ. Cool. Now let's drag and drop this into that same null, like at the bottom probably. And basically now, if we play it, it will be in the same position of that track solid. A little too large though, of course, so let's scale it down. Grab the scale tool, click outside the colors, and we should probably rotate it a little bit as well. Yeah, definitely rotate and move. Just a little. I mean, we basically are using that track solid as a guide, not as something definitive, right, as far as just position. And that's looking a little better. Let me move it a little. And that looks good. Cool. Swings around, dips his head. Alright. So I'm going to turn off the track solid now. And I'm just going to use this info here. Successfully turn him into a Lego, I believe. Let me just move it back just a little. We'll rotate it around. And again, doesn't have to be, whoops, wrong thing. Yeah, it doesn't have to be perfect. Just enough where I cover his face and I don't see like his hair or anything like that. Or his chin for that matter. Again, you can keyframe that too if you need to, but I'm just gonna leave it like that. Alright. So I should probably now after I get the head position, I should probably add a light to this just to match the lighting of the scene. And yeah, that looks good. Good enough, at least. Yeah, we gotta roto out the thumb later, probably. But that's looking pretty good. Let's go ahead and preview that real quick. Not bad. We just gotta match the lighting a little more. So I'm gonna go to Render Settings, Effect, Add Ambient Occlusion, Anti-aliasing, change geometry to best, and that's good for me. Let me go ahead now, and it looks about the same. I'm gonna add a light. I'm gonna add an area light actually. It looks like the lighting is coming from the left side, so I'm gonna take this area light and I'm gonna go to my 4 views. You see it's a little off as far as position, so I'll just move that. Hit the move tool, closer, and put it in place. Basically, pretty much
as if there was a window. Let's rotate it. Because remember, that is the Lego head. So that window should be about that big. Let me tilt it forward a little. Maybe looking pretty good. Let me preview that. Oh, wrong window. Preview that window. All right, that's pretty good. Of course, we'll have to fill in the other side. So let's drop the light inside the knoll as well. And that's looking good. Let's create a new light. Let's put the ambient illumination on and take the intensity down to like 30. I'll put a little bit of color in this one, make it kind of brownish to match the room. Preview that. All right, not bad. Maybe take it a little more saturated, a little lighter actually. Preview that. Or maybe I'll make the area light a little more intense. Go down to intensity, make it like 150. Preview that. All right, that's more like it. And let me go ahead and rotate it a little more. Actually, just move the position a little more of the area light. Now we're getting some good shine. And that's looking a lot better. So basically that fill light is just very, very subtle. Okay, next thing I'm going to create a sky. And with this sky selected, let me drag the video material on there. And I'm going to give this a tag. So I'll right click it and go to render tags, compositing. And I'll make sure scene by camera is unchecked. Now, if I press preview, you'll see there's a little bit of reflection of the video that's playing there. So that's just some stuff to give it a little more of a photorealistic belief. And that's looking good. You can see there's the reflection of the room there. And that's probably pretty good. So don't forget, you got to put the area light inside the null object as well. All right, so let's save this file. Save. Alright, now we go back to After Effects. It should transfer over. There it is. We got our Lego boss. From here, I could just drag these under because I'm not using them anymore. You see it's going to lag a little because it's loading through Cineware. Okay, so basically from here now, I'll just render it all out. So I'm going to pre-compose, change this to standard final, full quality. I'm going to pre-compose the layer by itself. Right click pre-compose, move all attributes, okay. And with that in its pre-comp, see I got this. Let me just turn on the alpha channel and I'm going to file, export, add to render or media encoder queue. So I'm just going to export just the head by itself with the alpha channel. So I'm going to need to turn it into a PNG sequence because a JPEG sequence would flatten it. Also, an H.264 video would also flatten it. And wait for media encoder to load. Alright, so let's change here to PNG. And then let's change where we're going to save it to. Then you press play and render it. I've already rendered one out, so I'll import that one for you. We'll go to File, Import File, and find that image sequence I made. And you'll see I have them all here, all the way down. I'll go back up and start at the first frame, which is, I think it's going to be 000 something. There it is. make sure you check import as footage right there. Import it and make sure that the frame rate matches. So I see here it's 30 by default. So I'm going to right click that, and you see the comp is 25, so we got to match it. So I'll right click the footage, interpret footage, main, and I'll change the frame rate from 30 to 25 right there. All right, so now it's matched, and now we should drop it in to the timeline, and boom. Slightly different since it was a pre-rendered sequence I made. So I'll turn off now the visual eye of the C40 layer. So now I just got the sequence, which is rasterized. Loading should be much more beneficial to us. Okay, so let me go back to the main comp here. And now I can just scroll through freely and I can see a preview. Let's preview that. Yeah, there it is. Got Lego Boss, but you can see the thumb goes under the helmet right there, or the head. So I gotta basically roto that thumb just for a few frames, maybe like 10, 20. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate the video layer and drag it on top of everything. All right, on top of the pre-comp 2, we got the regular one. I'm going to say from this frame, I know I'm going to have to roto thumb, so I'll grab a marker, drag it, and leave it there, and then I'll scroll to here where I'd stop, and then I'll grab the marker again, and I'll drag it over. So I just know basically between those two markers, I got to roto that thumb out. So I'm going to draw a mask, grab the pen tool, and draw a mask on this layer. Make sure the layer is selected, just around the top of the thumb. Doesn't have to be perfect. That's good enough probably. Now you see we've added only the thumb in the mask. All right, so let's go ahead and keyframe the mask path. I'm going to turn that to none real quick so I can just see through it. Change the color of the mask so it stands out a little more. Okay, so that's the last frame we got to do. Let's go back to the first frame we have to do. And let's double click one of these pins and move the whole thing over. Rotate it a little, scale it, rotate it however you see fit. Probably don't really need all of them, but I'll go in between them again. I'll start tweening. And that looks good. I might end up doing all of them. I don't know. I hope not. How many is this so far? 5? 5's not bad. Oh, that one's got to be changed. Here, 6. So we rotoed 6 frames by hand. Really not that big a deal. Maybe 7 or 8. About 10 frames probably total. All right, that's looking like it's going to work. Okay, so I'm going to change the blend mode back to add. So it's going to add that in front. Let me go ahead and feather it a little, maybe like 1 or 2 pixels. And let me give it a negative mask expansion, maybe like -1. Yeah, so it just crunches in. That's looking better. All right, cool. I think that's going to work, especially when we're zoomed out a little. There it is. You can barely notice that. So I got to trim this so it starts here. So let me grab the end of this layer. Drag it there, grab the end here. Boom. Yeah, all right. Sweet. And I think that's going to work. So just remember, whenever your boss extends to shake your hand, you smile and you shake that hand. Look at that, boss. All right. So that was face tracking, really. An unorthodox way of doing it. There's a 2D face tracker that kind of does it automatically, but it only tracks 2D, so not 3D. We can't tie 3D elements to it. So keep in mind, you can put anything on him. You can put a helmet on him, goggles, whatevers. Well, that's about wraps it up. It's been my pleasure, folks. Look, whatever you make doesn't have to be great, but it's gonna be good. Thank you. And congratulations.